Today is November 7th, 2017. My name is Joe Todd. This is an interview with Richard Smiddy in Pryor, Oklahoma. Sir, where were you born?
Louisville, Kentucky.
Louisville, Kentucky. And when's your birthday?
May 14th, 1956.
1956. Who is your father?
Biological,
Yes,
Billy Stewart.
Billy Stewart.
I was adopted by Bill Smiddy.
Okay. And your mother?
Louise Anderson.
Louise Anderson. Did you go through school in... Yeah, did you go through school in Louisville?
Yes. No, not totally.
Okay.
Grade school in Louisville and high school in Meade County, Kentucky.
Meade County, Kentucky?
Yeah.
Okay. You graduated what year?
1974.
1974. Who is your favorite teacher?
Mrs. Whitaker, third grade.
Why was she your favorite?
She took time with me when I was having trouble with math. She just made extra efforts.
Mm-hmm. Where were you when President Kennedy was assassinated?
Second grade, Louisville, Kentucky, grade school. They sent us home early from school.
Did you realize what was going on?
Yep.
What did you think?
Didn't understand it all.
Yeah.
So I learned from watching TV and the coverage of it.
Yeah.
Saw history in action.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What did you do for recreation in high school?
Hunted and fished, mostly hunted.
Mm-hmm. What did you do? So you hunted and fished?
Yes.
Okay. You were hunting what? Rabbits, deer?
Rabbits, mostly. Squirrels,
Okay.
small game.
Okay. What did you do after high school?
Joined the U.S. Army.
When did you join the Army?
February 14th, 1974. On the late entry program. Actually didn't go in until that summer.
Why did you join the Army over the Navy, Marines, or Air Force?
Truthfully, because the Army was Fort Knox was within 35 miles of my house, so I could get stationed at choice and I could go back and forth and actually be at home still.
Where did you go for your basic training?
Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
Tell me about basic.
Tell you about it?
Yeah.
Oh, it was easy because I was treated rough growing up. And when I got the basic training, it was a piece of cake. The guys that didn't have it so easy, so hard, they had difficulty adjusting. But to me, it was nothing.
What type of training did you have in basic?
Basic combat training. Learned the M16. Learned how to bivouac, how to shoot M16. A lot of first aid. And actually, I thought the entire Army was going to be like basic, and it really wasn't. But that's why I kind of prepared myself for.
Tell me about bivouac. What'd you do?
When I learned how to set up camp and be away from the comforts of home.
Mm-hmm. What's your most vivid memory of basic?
Heat. They ran us to death, and it was in the middle of June, July, and August, or July, August, and September, and I never sweated so much in my life.
Did they talk about Vietnam in basic?
Well, this was post-Vietnam, actually, and no, not really.
Okay.
Not really.
Basic lasted how long?
8 weeks, I think it was.
Then where'd you go?
Fort Knox, Kentucky.
Fort
Well, I had AIT at Fort Leonard Wood.
Okay.
So I stayed at Fort Leonard Wood.
Your AIT was in what?
I was a 51R20, which was an electrician.
How did your electrician school compare to basic?
there wasn't so much physical fitness type stuff. It was mostly, learning the craft,
Okay.
but the discipline was still there.
Now, as an electrician, what were you going to do in the Army?
I was I was an interior wireman for 3 years.
Interior wireman.
Right.
Okay.
We had extensive training on climbing poles and doing work on poles, but I only actually did that one time where I actually applied it. But most of the time I was putting conduit up, just wiring interior, redoing, refurbishing old buildings and stuff, doing repair. I worked mainly with post engineers, and we'd get work orders to do, and we'd be sent out to, if an office building had some lights that were out, or an outlet that was broke, or just stuff like that.
What's your most vivid memory of AIT?
I don't know if there's any one individual memory. I'll tell you, the biggest thing was the poles that we climbed were hazardous. They had been used so much, they were chewed up. And the day we graduated, we're marching to our auditorium to graduate, and there's guys with chainsaws out there cutting them down because they were going to put new ones in. So that's how bad they were. But we still climbed them, and we still got it done. That's a true story. We all just shook our heads, to where we were going.
After AIT, where'd you go?
Fort Knox, Kentucky, for the rest of my time.
What unit were you assigned to?
46th Engineer Company, C Company. It was out of, the rest of the companies were from Fort Rucker, Alabama, but C Company had come up to Fort Knox to help post engineers because they were short.
The 486th Engineers.
46th Engineers.
46. I'm sorry.
And see, I get that confused with my
Yes.
reserve. It was the 486.
Okay.
It was 46 Engineer.
Okay. And what'd you do at Fort Knox?
Well, just like I just said, it was basically more. We went to the field every so often, every few months, but mostly it was like a job with me wearing an Army uniform. I went and did my electrical, and if there wasn't any electrical work to be done, I would help. We were an engineer company, and we had everything from heavy equipment to carpenters, so I might help the carpenters do something, or just wherever somebody else needed help. But most of the time I did my electrical work, just like I was told I would be doing.
And when you go to the field, what does an electrician do?
We set up generator sets, generators with light sets for like CP tents and stuff, and man those. Plus we did the army drills too, we had the pull guard duty, and we played. We had aggressors out there, and we had to watch for the aggressors.
Yeah. And you were in the Army how long?
3 years, active duty 3 years.
And when do you get your discharge?
July the 11th. No, let's see. Went in on the 12th of July active duty, got out on the 11th of July 77.
1977.
Yeah. And then I went in reserves 10 years later.
Okay. What'd you do between your discharge and reserves?
Well, I went to work in Oklahoma, and overall I worked the same place for 40 years, but I was out for 10 years and just basically did my civilian job. And I got to thinking about the benefits that I had bypassed by getting out. So I thought I'd try to see if I could find a reserve unit that suited me. And I found the one in Broken Arrow that was a civil affairs unit. So I went back in the reserves.
Now, where were you working?
It was a company, it was Ralston Purina Company to start with. DuPont bought it from them. So when I finished out, it was owned by DuPont. But it was the two companies combined. It was the same place.
Okay.
Ralston Purina and then DuPont.
Okay.
It was a soy protein plant, made a food ingredient for human consumption, where soy applications are.
Okay. So you joined the Civil Affairs Unit.
Right.
When did you join the reserves?
In 1987, can't tell you the month. Can't remember the month.
What does Civil Affairs do?
Civil Affairs is an Army function where they take care of the civilians who are a casualty of the United States when they invade or make a movement through an area. If you don't take care of the civilians, then you could be creating another enemy. So by taking care of the civilians in the aftermath, then you've not created an enemy, you've created an ally.
And what was your job in the unit?
Well, I was a unit armorer. I was a supply sergeant for a short time, just an interim one. But mainly I went to Germany and acted as a liaison between the Americans and the Germans on a pretty regular basis. I went 3 times.
And why'd you go to Germany?
That was our station. That was our assignment.
Okay.
Our unit was assigned to Germany, West Germany at the time. And when the Berlin Wall fell, our mission changed from Germany to Central and South America, and I went to Central America one time.
Mm-hmm. Now, what do you do when you go to Europe or South America?
Well, in Germany, with the tensions high between East and West, we worked on simulations of actually World War III if the communists had invaded West, and most of it, it was all computer, but we coordinated with the Germans to they would put a hypothetical situation in front of us, say you had so many casualties, and I would go to the Germans and say we need some hospital beds, where's the hospitals at? We just coordinated with them. We were a go-between between the Germans and the Americans.
Okay. And where were you stationed in Germany?
Mainz, Koblenz. We headquartered out of Bad Kreuznach. I think that our unit had other towns that we coordinated with, but that was the ones I worked out of.
What was the reaction of the German civilians to you?
Oh, they liked us. They liked us real well. Mm-hmm. The German army did too.
How about South America?
South America went one time, and it was on a humanitarian mission. It was in Belize. Belize used to be called British Honduras. Mm-hmm. And the British were leaving out, and rather than create a void, I think the task at hand was to have another friendly government in place. So what we did is we went down there on a humanitarian mission trying to help the civilian people out. And it was a joint task force. We had Navy Seabees, Civil Affairs, and Civil Affairs made sure that everything was going smooth between the military and the civilians. But we built them schools and community water wells that they needed. And we also had medical expertise, and they set up med-rets where they could do medical examinations for the kids and the villagers in places where a lot of them had probably never seen a doctor before.
Now, med-ret is acronym for what?
You got me a medical, I can't remember.
Okay.
You tell me. You don't know? That's what they call it, was a med-ret. Okay. And the last thing I did in the military, I got out as soon as I came back from there, but they sent me to a village by helicopter, and I had to meet with the alcalde of the village. The only way in and out was by donkey, or by, I guess Humvees could probably make it. Mm-hmm. But we flew in, and I met with the alcalde, and I told him I was with the United States Army, and we wanted to set up a med-ret where we brought medical people in, a medical team in, and that we could do impromptu exams and give medicines if they needed it, and they okayed that. I set it up. They told me what building that they wanted it to be in. And the last thing I did is when I got back, I gave that report, and the following week they did it, but I was already gone. That was the last thing I did.
Being British Honduras, they spoke English, didn't they?
Yeah, that was a plus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now the local people down there, they're Mayan, aren't they?
Right, but let me back up. When I got to the village, it was in the mountains. The alcalde couldn't speak English. When our helicopter landed, they just took me. The two pilots did, and I looked. The village people lined the place, our landing site, and I went to the oldest people I could see. And first thing I asked if they could speak English, and then the ones that said they could, then I asked them if they could take me to the alcalde. So they took me to the alcalde, and then the ones that went with me acted as interpreters, and he okayed everything.
Now, do they speak Mayan or in Spanish?
I'm not sure. Probably Spanish.
Yeah.
I think mostly Spanish.
Okay. What's your most vivid memory of Belize?
The heat, the humidity, the heat. It was hot. I walked around with a towel around my neck just to wipe the sweat off. Very humid. It's a jungle atmosphere. But on top of that, the people was very gracious about us being there. One of the things I was told when I first got there was not to give out any treats to the kids, and that kind of surprised me. But they said the reason being was somebody threw out an MRE to some kids that was chasing a truck, an army truck, and to get the MRE, and the kid got run over by another truck and killed him. And they said to show you how even the parents had gratitude of us being there, that they didn't blame the Army for running over their kid because it was an accident. But it takes a lot of, for people to have that much gratitude that they can kind of overlook that. That's pretty incredible.
So you came back to the States.
Right.
When did you go to Belize? Do you recall?
It was in '93.
93.
Yeah. Can't remember what month either.
Okay. Now, Desert Shield, Desert Storm. What'd you do? Did you volunteer?
Yeah.
Tell me.
My unit wasn't deployed,
Okay.
but I felt an urgency to go and help.
Why?
Because it's kind of like I told my wife and other people, it's kind of like being a football player and practicing for the Super Bowl and then sitting the bench. I didn't want to sit the bench, and I knew I wasn't going to spend much more time in the military. So I went to Civil Affairs School at Fort Bragg, and when I got back, well, while I was at Civil Affairs School is when they got invaded by Iraq.
What did you think when you heard Saddam had invaded Kuwait?
I thought it was a tragedy. It was Hitler-esque, if that makes any sense. And I was taking the enlisted course at John F. Kennedy Special Warfare Center, and our instructor, when he came in and told us about it, he said there are officers down the hallway taking the officers course from Kuwait. They were over here and said they don't have a country to go home to. They're stuck. And that kind of went home with me too. So when I got back to Oklahoma from the school, I went to my colonel and told him that if he needed to send in anybody over there that I'd like to go. And he said he'd put my name down. And it turned out there were 7 of us. And I was the last one that they took because other units had picked up the other people, but they couldn't find a slot for me in any unit. And they finally did. It was with a group from Arkansas. So at the very last, Captain McCarthy, I went over to talk to him one night, just out of curiosity, and he told me, he said, "Smitty, we can't find an opening for you." I said, so it looks like I'm not going? And he said, yeah, it looks like you're not going. And the next day they called me at work and said, get your stuff packed. That's the truth.
So when do you call to active duty?
When was that?
Yeah, for Desert Shield.
I left January 6th, and there was snow and ice storm, and
Of what year?
January of 19, let's see, that was in 91, so yeah, it'd be 91. And the plane backed away from the terminal and stopped. They came out and de-iced us. Plane sat there forever.
Where were you?
In Tulsa.
Tulsa. Okay.
And they said not to worry because planes had been backed up all through the system. I got down to Atlanta, and guess what? I missed my connecting flight for 30 minutes. So they had put me up in a Howard Johnson's overnight, and they put me in a room with a guy that was going to try out for the Special Forces. And he was just a kid. I was 35.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just flabbergasted that they were taking a reservist for Desert Storm, and he wasn't getting to go. And anyway, I led him around and told him, because traveling to Germany and all this stuff had me ready for my travel. Any disruption didn't bother me anymore. I was ready. I adapted to it. And I told him, I said, just come with me, you'll be all right. He was nervous wreck, gonna be a Green Beret. And anyway, we went and ate together. We had food vouchers and all that. He said, what were we gonna get? I said, steak. I said, they delayed us, we didn't delay them, so I said, we're gonna eat steaks. And it was kind of funny in a way.
So where'd you go?
What do you mean?
From Atlanta, where'd you go?
To Fayetteville, North Carolina, to Fort Bragg.
Fort Bragg.
Yeah.
What'd you do at Fort Bragg?
Waited a long time. No, we got there plenty ahead of time. Nobody knew what our future was going to be, and when we were going to be needed. The military is known for hurry up and wait, and that's what we did. So we did training. That's what you do to fill time up. We special operations forces qualified with the different events that they've got, and we learned had some Arabic classes. We might need the Arabic, and just did a lot of, like I said, a lot of training, cleaning the weapons up, getting our gear ready, kind of getting to know each other too, because I didn't even know any of these guys. The rest of them knew each other, but they'd never lived in close quarters, so it kind of gave us a chance to know each other too.
How'd you prepare for Kuwait? What type of training did you have?
Well, we had some 96 civil affairs guys with us, and that's the only active duty civil affairs unit. Mm-hmm. And we did MOUT training, military operations in urban terrain, which basically amounts to attacking a building, inner city dwellings. Mm-hmm. And most civil affairs people don't do that. They don't know how to do that. Well, when I got over there, I had to clear buildings that the Iraqis had lived in. So it was in town. So anyway, they taught us how to, they were active duty Army, and they taught us how to take a building, what to look for as you're doing it, how to cover each other, strong points, weak points, whatever, and work as a team to try to overtake a building when it could be occupied. Mm-hmm. So they supplied a lot of our training too. It was 96. I don't know if the 96 even exists nowadays. It's been so long, but back then you had 36 reserve civil affairs units and one active duty one, and 96 was the active duty one.
Why there's so many reservists?
Why? Because of their they bring their civilian skills to the table. Civil affairs people need a lot of civilian skills, and that's a plus in the civil affairs arena.
Did your civilian skill help you in civil affairs?
Not so much. Being prior service and being an engineer probably helped me more than my civilian skills, because I was an well, in civilian life, I worked in a factory, you know, but as a reservist, you know, like I said, I went to civil affairs school, and the people that have the skills that the civil affairs really helps is medical, and you've got law enforcement people, you've got firemen. We even had a veterinarian that went with us, and believe it or not, he came in handy because the Iraqis shot a bunch of the zoo animals up. That's no joke. They shot monkeys and just everything. They tried to destroy everything, but our veterinarian even came in handy. So
how long you at Fort Bragg?
before we deployed, I've never thought about it. At least 6 weeks, maybe 2 months. A long time.
Who was your supervisor or commanding officer in the unit there?
I showed you his picture a while ago. Colonel, man, I can't think of his name, Joe. I think he became 1-star though. I think he got a star out of it.
And so your immediate commander was?
Carl Horton was my OIC
Okay.
when we were clearing buildings.
Okay. So tell me about leaving. Did you leave Fort Bragg or Pope Air Force Base?
Do what now?
Did you left Fort Bragg and where'd you go?
Well, Pope Air Force Base butts up to it.
Okay.
If you leave Fort Bragg, you're in
Okay.
you're at Pope Air Force Base on the plane.
What were you thinking about getting on the airplane leaving the States?
I didn't really have any. I didn't have any negative thoughts. I was excited, to be truthful with you. But, you know, like I said, I volunteered to go, and I thought that, you know, I was going to live it out rather than be in training all the time. I was going to live it out, which I thought was kind of neat. But in the back of your mind, you wonder if you're coming back or not. But you try to shove that out of your head. You want to get something done, and you want to help these people. That's all I was thinking about. But I was kind of excited to be. A lot of people would think that's crazy, but I was kind of excited about going. You know.
Of course, Saddam had used chemicals.
If he had.
He had.
Oh, he had. I know he had.
Did you think about this?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we took a gas mask with us everywhere we went, even to the shower. Just before you went into the water, you hung your gas mask up, and when you came out and toweled off, I mean, you would go in there with just your PT uniform on and gas mask, and we had a gas mask everywhere. I used mine for a pillow. They told us not to because of the atropine injections in it, but it takes a lot to get one to activate. But I use it it went everywhere.
And what airplane did you get on? What type of airplane?
Going over or coming back?
Going over.
C-141.
C-141. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me about the trip to Arabia.
16 hours. 8 hours to Spain, get off and eat, refuel, 8 hours more.
How do you pass the time on the trip?
I had a headset with, back then cassettes was the popular thing, and I had a headset with a lot of pre-recorded music that I took with me. And I can't remember if I took anything to read other than the New Testament, but music was a lot of it.
What about the crew on the airplane?
Oh, you want me to tell about riding up front?
Yes.
I went to get coffee. Everybody was asleep, and there was a big coffee jug up front. And I went up to get me some coffee, and I was kind of craning my neck to see the cockpit. The loadmaster was up there and saw me looking in. Said, "Come on up."
She saw you looking in.
She saw me looking in.
So female.
There's a female loadmaster, and she had me climb up there, and I got up, and there was a troop seat in between the two pilots, some kind of seat. Anyway, I sat up there with them, and them guys shook my hand, and we started talking. And anyway, we flew over the ocean on autopilot and sat and talked for an hour or so. It was kind of neat.
And you landed where?
You got me on. I told you I get those towns mixed up. It was either Tehran or, huh?
Was it Daharan?
Oh no, we landed in Spain.
Spain.
You talking about midway or at the end?
Well, you landed in Spain going over, and
We landed in Spain going over and coming back, but Daharan was where we landed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you land in Daharan.
It was like an air show. There were two runways that run perpendicular to each other. The one going one direction had American F-15s. And as soon as one would lift off and the other one was roaring, he was going up with him, and they would group up. And when I pulled my truck off the C-141, British Tornadoes was right beside us. And when I pulled my pickup off the truck, a tornado was right there, and the pilot was waving to us. And this no joke. He's waving at us just like we're in traffic, and he's waving over at us, you know. He knew we just got there. And this was British, and he was going that way, and they were loaded up with missiles. And I told my co-driver, I said, how would you like to be on the other end of this? Because they were going out with missiles, and they came back, and they didn't have any left. And it was just like plane after plane after plane. But anyway, they grouped us. They put the guys that weren't in the vehicle, they put them in the back of like a deuce and a half. And we all went to Cobar Towers, and they settled us. We had an advance party of about 3 guys, and they told us where we were going and stuff. But we had 5 airplanes flying 2 hours apart. At one time, our whole unit was in the air, but we were 10 hours from start to finish. And I thought that was pretty cool. That's how big the world is. Because they were going 550 miles an hour, and we were all in the air. And it took it took 10 hours for everybody to get there. And that was just our unit. That was just our unit.
Yeah.
You imagine how many units we got moved.
So what'd you do in Daharan?
First couple of days, they just let us chill out and relax, get caught up with the time change and all that.
What was the climate when you got off the airplane?
Well, this was actually the winter time, but it was like in the 90s. It was hot. The wind didn't blow a whole lot. It seemed like it was real stale. And there was odors there that just different than any place you go to. The food was different. I don't know, it was just different. There's no trees around to speak of, it was just all sand. Everything was, when I drove my truck off the plane, that was the one thing I noticed. It was real bright. The sunlight was just almost blinding, and it was brown. It seemed like everything was brown. And with the uniforms, we blended in. But it was real bright, not different than Oklahoma.
So how long were you in Cobar Towers?
I don't know, a couple weeks.
What'd you do in those 2 weeks?
Well, like I said, we spent 2 or 3 days just getting acclimated to being there. I can't remember, to be honest with you. Tried to relax. It wasn't anything. We'd already prepared. We were just waiting. Mainly just waiting.
Have any contact with the local people?
No,
Okay.
no, they kept us in a certain area. In fact, we had razor wire. It was almost like we were prisoners because they didn't want us going anywhere.
Yeah. So from Cobar Towers, where'd you go?
Algebale.
Where's that located?
It's north. It's halfway between Kuwait and and Cobar Towers, or Dhahran, and it was an oil field worker camp, series of camps for oil workers, field workers, and they lived in modular homes, I guess you'd call it. It's kind of like double wide trailers. And I know they had at least 15 camps, but they were all separated from each other just by a little bit, maybe a mile. Because a guy I worked with, he was in the Marines, and he was at Camp 15. I was at Camp 1. Camp 1 was closest to the Persian Gulf. And as far as I know, Camp 1 was the only one with the Army. The rest of them were Marines, but I'm not certain about that. But I had to stay in my camp. I didn't get to get out and wander around. The only time I got to leave is when we convoyed out to go to Kuwait. So I didn't get to go. They didn't want us to for safety reasons. Too many. There was, they taught us how to look for suspicious vehicles. Somebody that might be a terrorist. Back then, terrorism wasn't even a common word, but that's what we were looking for, was terrorists. And it was kind of funny. We had an instructor that taught us some of those techniques. And when you were out on the road, everybody drove a white Chevy Impala. I don't know what it was about white Chevy Impala. You remember that? And but everybody had a white Chevy Impala, and the instructor told us, said, try to get all the information you can if you see a suspicious vehicle. And he said, don't come up to us and say, he's driving a white Chevy Impala. Everybody started laughing. That must have been the going thing, those white Chevy Impalas. You remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, they were everywhere.
And the Toyota pickups.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you were at Al-Jabail how long?
Joe, it's been so long. I'm just going to say a couple weeks.
Okay. And then the Grand War started.
Yeah.
And what happened?
Well, our communications was at BBC. That's how we listened to what was going on and got our updates, to be honest with you. BBC knew what was going on, and we were just stuck. Well, we were waiting, and when U.S. forces invaded Kuwait, we wanted to go with them. They had us like on standby, and it was killing us. We wanted to go. We wanted to see what was going on and help. And we just look at each other and shake. We listen to the radio and just shake our heads. Like, when are we going? What are we doing here? If we can't go. But they finally told us they wanted us up there. And when we got there, you could see actually fired bullets was all over the ground.
This is in Kuwait?
In Kuwait City.
Now tell me about going from Al-Jabail to Kuwait City.
Okay, I'm repeating myself with this stuff I told you earlier. But we convoyed out. We had between 150 and 200 vehicles, and it took us 12 hours to go about 170 miles because we're going so slow. It's convoy speed. And I had the operations officer and another captain riding with me, and I was a driver. And they actually held the steering wheel while I ate my MREs. They offered to spell me from the driving, and I didn't want to because I knew I'd fall asleep. And as it turned out, I started nodding off. And we drove through the night. We got there at 1 o'clock in the morning. So we're driving in the dark. Well, there was a few places that we encountered craters in the road, bomb craters. And the lead vehicle would steer around it, and we'd follow them. And there's a couple times I nodded off, and I kind of veered off away from the center of the road a little bit. And I jerked my head up and looked in my mirror, and the rest of the convoy was coming with me. where I nodded off, and it made me laugh, because they thought they were avoiding something, and all they were doing is following me. But we finally got there. We had MPs meet us at the border. We had MPs at the front of our convoy and at the back, and they had mounted machine guns. And anyway, they let us in. We stayed at the Ministry of Education, had a school book warehouse complex, series of warehouses, and that's where they kept the school books. And there was probably, I'm just gonna guess, about 10 warehouses in this thing.
This is in Kuwait City?
It's in, right in Kuwait,
Okay.
well, at the edge of town. And anyway, we pulled in there, and we ended up setting up home in one of the warehouses. And that's when I got out, and I told you there was bullets, spent bullets all over the ground. You'd kick them like rocks. You'd be walking along, kick something, there's a bullet. And I don't know if they were shooting in celebration or somebody shooting at them, but they had that camp at one time, and it was ours now.
The Iraqis?
The Iraqis had it. That's why the Saddam posters were up everywhere. And yeah, I don't know who fired those bullets, but there was a bunch of shooting went on. And anyway, from what I heard, the Marines took the town, and then they camped out on the west side of town, set up a perimeter. And after that, Civil Affairs and Special Forces occupied the town. But Special Forces was there the whole time. They were teaching the freedom fighters how to go about their business.
The Kuwaiti resistance.
Yeah, the resistance. Right.
Now, you mentioned the medical supplies in the building.
They weren't really medical supplies.
I mean, the ammo.
Yeah. They knew we wouldn't bomb medical facilities, so they used the medical facilities as ammo storage. Or they lived there. So,
Isn't that a war crime?
yeah. Yeah. There was lots of war crimes. Saw a military ambulance with a .50 caliber mounted on it with red crescent. So they don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Only we do.
So what'd you do in Kuwait City?
My unit put me as the NCOIC of a team that cleared buildings.
And what unit were you assigned to?
431st Civil Affairs.
431st Civil Affairs.
Out of North Little Rock, Arkansas.
Okay.
And they put me in charge as the NCOIC with a captain, and we were sent on a daily basis to buildings that the Iraqis had lived in, to clear them, to make sure the civilians could go back in and set up their businesses or whatever they did. And in some cases, well, one case in particular, the director of transportation went with us. We more or less provided security and safety for him because he wanted to see how bad his place had been ransacked and tore up. So when he walked in, we walked in with him. And but that's what we did. We never confronted any enemy. We were ready if we had of, but we went in the rooms where their shoes and clothes was still in there. And as soon as the invasion happened, they got rid of any identification. We found uniforms and different things, anything that could identify them as being the enemy, because they wanted to blend in with the regular civilians. And they told us, intel told us there was 3,000 to 5,000 of them there when we got there. We could be standing next to one and not know it. So you didn't know what was going to happen, but we were ready if something did.
What was the purpose of clearing the buildings?
So the civilians could move back in and reconstruct their business or their activity. It was schools and medical facilities, mainly. That if civilian walked back in there and was unarmed, they could have all got killed. A bunch of them could have gotten killed. So we went in and made sure it was safe for them. We provided safety for them.
What had the Iraqis done to all these buildings?
They ransacked everything. The story I heard was Saddam said, from the civilians that went through all this, they said every 30 days a new crew would come down from Kuwait, Iraq and destroy stuff. They ransacked stuff. They set fires in buildings. None of this stuff they treated like they wanted to keep it and use it later.
What was the attitude of the local people toward you in Kuwait City?
They was ecstatic. They were so glad that we were there. It was I've never seen anything like it. I've equated it to being rock stars. It's just like rock stars showed up. I mean, they were just so thankful, and they wanted to get near us and have pictures taken with us. I mean, it was kind of embarrassing, you know. Anything that could help them connect with us. A lot of them wanted me to sign an autograph, which I thought was awkward, but I would write "Good luck from the U.S. Army," something like that. Mm-hmm. Well, it got around that they were wanting this, and somebody rounded up a bunch of postcards, what looked like postcards with the American flag on one side of it, and you could get as many of them as you wanted. So I went up and grabbed me a stack of them because I saw what was happening with the civilians. Took them back to my little hooch, and on the back of them I wrote "Good luck from Sergeant Smiddy in the United States Army," and I pre-wrote them out. So when I got around the kids and they wanted some kind of trinket, I gave them all an American flag that said that on the back. Some of them still have them to this day, you know, as a souvenir.
Now you mentioned one Kuwaiti wanted you to thank George Bush.
Oh yeah. I wasn't even going to bring that up. It wasn't one of them. It was a lot of them. They wanted me to, the ones in broken English, they'd walk around and say, Bush good, talking about President Bush. And the ones that could speak a little bit better wanted me to thank Bush when I got home. Well, rather than give them a big long story about him being the president and me being the sergeant, I told them I would, just to pacify them. And anyway, when President Bush got out of office, just on a whim, I found out what his address was, his home address. So I sat and wrote him a letter, because I'm usually a person of integrity and of my word. And I thought, I'm going to write him a letter. And even though he got knocked out of the election, I want him to know that people in the world appreciated what he did, what he stood for, what we stood for. So I wrote him a letter, and I told him that in broken English they wanted me to thank him. And I said, so from them through me, this is their thank you. So I lived up to my promise, even though I knew at the time it probably wasn't going to happen. And I told him, I said, and I told him in my letter, I said, they don't realize the distance between an Army sergeant and the President of the United States. And he sent me back a photograph signed, said to Richard Smiddy with best wishes, George Bush. So I thought that was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. But and that shows right there that he at least took the time to sign his name to a photo to me. And so the distance between an Army sergeant and the President of the United States wasn't as far away as I thought.
What's the highway of death?
That was the highway going out of Basra. I don't know what the highway number. Out of Kuwait City to Basra. And when the invasion started, there was a mass exodus by the Iraqis to get out of Kuwait because they were getting torn up by U.S. forces. And so they convoyed up. They were leaving out of town. And the Air Force came in and they knocked the front of the convoy out. Well, then they turned around, tried to go back into Kuwait, and they hit the back of the convoy. So then all the vehicles in the convoy started scattering out in the desert in a panic. And the story I heard after that was that the fighters went back and forth and just mowed everything, killed everything that lived. The sidebar to that, and the sad story was, they took hostages with them. There was Kuwaitis in that convoy, and they got killed too. They killed everything that lived. There wasn't even a dog out there. So that was the tragedy in hindsight. Nobody realized that they was going to take hostages with them, but they did. Did you hear about that? Yeah. Yeah.
So you went north of Kuwait City up to the Highway of Death?
I went up to the top edge of it right there.
Yeah.
And to be truthful with you, I went up there to see what everybody was talking about. And there wasn't a mission. It was just to go see for myself.
Yeah.
And we went up to the end of it, did a U-turn, went back into Kuwait City.
I heard about the Iraqis torturing Kuwaitis.
Yeah.
Did you hear about this?
Yeah.
What happened?
The Palestinian, the Iraqis torturing the Kuwaitis. Yeah, I heard some bad stories. One in particular, and I heard these stories firsthand. I mean, it wasn't like a second and third, because I was out with the people. One kid was out in the street playing with other kids, and he started singing a Kuwait patriotic song. And an Iraqi soldier heard him and took the kid and asked the kid where he lived. He showed him, so he walked the kid. They said, "Let's go home." So he walked him home, and they got the family out of the house, and he announced to the family that he heard this kid singing a Kuwait patriotic song. And then he pulled his pistol out, shot the kid in the head, executed him right in front of his parents. And that was the story that stuck out to me more than anything. And that was one reason that I was glad I was there, because we provided safety. We made these people feel safe. And the kids, I don't know how much they were terrified, but when they saw us, they weren't terrified anymore, because we weren't going to let that happen.
How long were you in Kuwait City?
Joe, I'm losing track, about a couple months, probably 6-8 weeks, I don't know.
What's your best memory of Kuwait City?
Best? The best memory is probably the worst memory. It would be that how tore up the place was. My interpreter, my interpreter lived there. We took him home. He was a student in the United States that volunteered to act as an interpreter, and we actually drove him to his front step. And his dad and uncle walked out, and they were just as proud of him as they could be, because he came back and he brought the Army with him. Well, he told me when we were over there, and we ran into things all the time, but he told me in English, he said, this town used to be called the Pearl of the Gulf. And he said, look at it now. And it looked like a big dump. There was trashed vehicles everywhere. Stuff had been burned up. There wasn't anything pleasant or pretty about this place at all, because they had trashed it. They had just trashed the whole place. And that's what stood out. And if I had the money, I'd like to go back and just see. He told me at the time that if I ever came back, that they had a custom that I wouldn't pay for anything. But I never even knew what his last name was, to even talk to him. I'd like to talk to him, just see how it's going. But if I had the money, I'd like to go back and take a look and just see. I'm sure it's really nice and fixed up. But what I saw was a mess. It was a mess.
What's your worst memory of Kuwait City?
That's what I basically just said.
Okay.
My best memory is probably my worst memory. Yeah.
So, Kuwait City, where'd you go?
Well, my unit had 3 days left in Kuwait, and then we were going to pull back and go back into Saudi Arabia. And I got called home on emergency leave because my dad had terminal cancer. I already knew it. I knew it before I left, but he'd taken a real bad turn for the worse, and they asked me to come home. My unit ended up going to Turkey to help the Kurds. The Kurds had evacuated out of Iraq, and civil affairs people was going up there. But as it turned out, I went home and went back to Fort Bragg and out processed, and I was done with it. But they were gone for another month or couple months maybe up there helping the Kurds. But I went home, took care of business at home, and then went back to Fort Bragg and out processed.
Were you discharging?
My status was changed from active. See, they activated me,
Yeah.
and they give me a red card, made me a reservist again.
Okay. And you
And
went
they updated my TD 214 then. And I
went back to 486?
Yeah,
Okay.
but I had to take physical and out processing physical and all that.
Mm-hmm. And how long did you stay in the reserves?
6 years altogether.
6 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was in for 3 active duty, out for 10, and then went back in reserves for 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting ready to get married again, and anyway, there was a lot of stuff on my plate, and I decided to just discharge out.
So when did you get your final discharge?
As far as dates go, just 1993 is all I can tell.
1993. Okay.
Yeah. I was from 86 to 93, from 74 to 77, 87 to 93.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What did you do after your discharge?
Just went back to work.
At the DuPont?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
When did you retire?
Last December 2016, December.
Mm-hmm. Would you join the Army again?
Would I? Okay, let's be more specific. Would I join the Army the way it is now, or would I join the Army the way it was back then?
Would you join the Army today?
Today? Yeah, probably so.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, but more so than I would have back then. You want me to tell you why?
Why?
Back when I was in the Army, it was post-Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
It was the beginning of the non-draft Army, all volunteer. I was in the Army with guys that was given the chance to join the Army or go to jail. Drugs was horrible. I didn't smoke, drink, or do drugs. And I had a guy actually ask me back in the 70s, "What do you do for fun?" Because that was their mindset. You know, it was.
Mm-hmm.
And after I was in there, it was my way out and a way to get some training that I couldn't afford anyway else. So I'm grateful for that. I didn't follow through and do it as a civilian. That was my plan, to be an electrician as a civilian. Mm-hmm. But the Army, I didn't make a lot of bonds with the people I was in then because I didn't do all that stuff. And I was lucky enough that I was at home, close to home, to where I could go back to the friends that I had and the people I grew up with. The Army now has a lot more stringent requirements. The training's higher, more technical, I think, and they're not taking people as an alternative to going to jail. I mean, you know, really, it's the truth. So I think in ways it's better, in ways it's not as good because of some of the people they are allowing in, as far as I'm concerned. The alternate lifestyles and stuff. I wouldn't want to be around that too. So I'll tell you one thing about joining the Army. Back in the 70s, it had a stigma that went with it. When I married my first wife, my mother-in-law did not want me to wear my uniform to the wedding. And I complied because I was taking a daughter away, so I wanted to keep the peace, so I didn't wear it, and I regret that. but it carried a stigma with it, because if you were in the Army back then, all these things that I was telling you about came with it. You know what I'm talking about. And but in retrospect, the things that I did in the Army, I'm proud of what I did. I'm proud that I stood up and joined the Army and represented the United States. And I actually saw the appreciation in Kuwait. Those people, they, all the miles that I ever ran, all the blisters on my feet, all the agony and the homesickness, when I saw the reaction of those people, it's right where the Lord wanted me to be. And I felt good. I felt like I did something.
Tell me about coming home.
Oh, at Westover, Massachusetts.
Yes.
We landed in Westover, Massachusetts, and nobody on my airplane knew anybody from there. And they had a shuttle bus come out to the plane, and a chaplain was on it. And he told us there was a bunch of people that were wanting to meet us. And we're looking at each other like, we don't know anybody up here. And but they were Americans. That was the thing. But anyway, he said, I came out here to warn you guys because it's taken a lot of people by surprise. And then he said a prayer for us, you know. So we got off the plane and went into this hangar, and it was just full. I mean, there was several hundred people in there. And they had food for us to eat. And it was amazing.
You said there was a red carpet?
Yeah, there was a red carpet rolled out. They were playing Lee Greenwood's song, I'm Proud to Be an American. They had it roped off. They had a high-ranking officer from every branch of the service spaced out on that carpet, and a Vietnam vet in a wheelchair at the end, standing or sitting beside a Special Forces full-bird colonel. And I went down through there saluting all of them, and I looked around, and everybody behind me was already shaking hands with the crowd. So I had to go back and do that. But it was kind of cool. Kids had sweatshirts, and they wanted us to sign them with a Sharpie on their shirt. And they were showing their gratitude. The Vietnam guys didn't get that. And I think, you know, a lot of times we learn from our mistakes. If you don't learn from your mistakes, something's wrong. I had an uncle 10 years older than me that went to Nam in '65. And anyway, I wrote him a letter from over there. And I told him, I thanked him. I said, by you going through what you went through, I maybe won't have to. So, and I say that to you too, Joe.
Appreciate it. I would like to do a word association.
Okay.
I'll give you some words, you give me your reaction.
Okay. First
one is basic training.
Tough.
46 engineers.
Electrician.
Germany.
Great.
Belize.
Not so great.
486 Civil Affairs.
Good unit.
Desert Shield.
Waiting.
Desert Storm.
Not waiting anymore.
Dahran.
Welcome to Saudi Arabia.
Al Jubail.
Wait.
Kuwait City.
Time to go to work. Business.
General Schwarzkopf.
Hero.
Colin Powell.
Hero. They saved my life.
How?
The way they took care of business. Have you ever read Schwarzkopf's book? It doesn't take a hero. He was in Nam, and he was taking the same place over and over, and I think he was a colonel then. And his higher up told him, said, you take notes of this, because he said, one of these days you can do it different. He said, you can't now. You got to follow orders. And when he went to Kuwait, it was like a steamroller hit. He saved my life. I have no doubt. When I saw those fighters going out night after night after night, day after day, loaded with missiles and coming home empty, I knew right then that he meant business.
George Bush.
I loved him.
How you want to be remembered?
Who, me? Somebody that cared.
Well, sir, anything else you want to talk about now?
No.
This is an excellent interview. I want to thank you for your service and thank you for the interview.
No problem.
And again, this is November 7th, 2017. My name is Joe Todd. This has been an interview with Richard Smiddy in Pryor, Oklahoma. Thank you.
Sorry.